This document, Representative Crockett, is a forgery. It's a fake. A pathetic criminal fake. President Trump's voice boomed from the White House podium, and the United States Secret Service Forensic Division, whose report I hold in my hand, is prepared to testify to that fact under oath. I wonder, are you? The remnants of Jasmine Crockett's political career were nothing but ash. She was a pariah, a cautionary tale whispered in the halls of Congress, but in the scorched earth of her own making, a single toxic seed of obsession remained. Her previous attacks, the misrepresented documents, the racist taunts, the baseless accusations, had all been exposed as lies. This time, she needed something that felt real. She needed a weapon that looked, felt, and smelled like the truth, even if it was rotten to the core. The weapon was delivered to her by a disgraced former government clerk, a man with a grudge and a talent for fabrication. It was a single sheet of paper, aged and yellowed, with an official-looking letterhead. It was a purported internal memo from the Immigration and Naturalization Service, dated decades ago. The memo was a forgery, but a brilliant one. It alleged that Usha Vance's family had been granted residency under a special exemption in exchange for a substantial, off-the-books, political donation, a quid pro quo that amounted to bribery. It was the ultimate lie, wrapping up everything Crockett had ever accused the Vances of into one neat criminal package. Armed with her fake document, she secured an exclusive interview on a major primetime news program. In the White House Situation Room, President Trump, J.D. Vance, and the White House counsel watched the broadcast. The mood was grim. "And tonight, I have the evidence that proves the cover-up," Crockett said to the news anchor, her eyes gleaming with a feverish, triumphant light. She held up the forged memo. "This isn't about a clerical error. This is a smoking gun. It shows the Vance family bought their way into this country. This is a crime, and I am formally calling for the Department of Justice to open a criminal investigation into the Vice President and his entire family." The anchor, sensing the gravity of the claim, pushed back. "Representative, the authenticity of that document." "It's been vetted," Crockett snapped, cutting him off. "This is real, and it proves that the corruption goes all the way to the top." J.D. Vance felt a cold dread wash over him. This was different. This wasn't a misinterpretation. This was a detailed, specific, criminal accusation based on physical evidence. President Trump, however, wasn't looking at Crockett. He was staring intently at a high-resolution image of the document on a separate screen. "Something's not right," he murmured, pointing. "The seal. It's too clean. The ink bleed is inconsistent with the aging of the paper." He turned to his counsel. "Get this to the Secret Service Forensics Lab. I want a full analysis. Paper, ink, typewriter imprints, everything. I want it done by sunrise." As the government's top forensic experts began their work through the night, Vance went to his private quarters to speak with Usha. He showed her the image of the document. She looked at it, her lawyer's mind instantly deconstructing it. She was calm, analytical. "This is sloppy work," she said finally, her voice steady. She pointed to a signature at the bottom. "That's supposed to be Director Miller's signature. I studied his cases at Yale. He had a very distinctive loop on his R. This isn't it. It's a close copy, but it's not his." Her eyes narrowed. "And this form number at the bottom, the INS didn't start using that series until 2 years after the date on this memo." She looked up at her husband. "He didn't just find a lie, J.D. He made one." Usha's brilliant observations, combined with the forensic team's findings, confirmed it all. By 5 a.m., the report was on the president's desk. The paper was modern, artificially aged with tea and heat. The ink was from a printer cartridge that didn't exist until the late 1990s. The typewriter font had microscopic inconsistencies, proving it came from a modern computer, not a vintage machine. Usha was right. The form number was anachronistic. The document wasn't just a lie. It was a pathetic, amateur hour forgery. President Trump read the report, a slow, cold fury building within him. She didn't just cross a line. She tried to commit a crime against the Vice President of the United States. He looked at Vance. We're not just refuting her, JD. We are ending her. He called an immediate press conference in the East Room. The press, buzzing from Crockett's primetime bombshell, packed the room, expecting a defensive White House. J.D. Vance walked to the podium first. He looked tired, but his voice was like steel. Last night, Representative Jasmine Crockett presented what she called a smoking gun, he began. She accused my wife's family of a terrible crime. She held up a document as proof. I am here today to talk about that document. He gestured to the large screens on either side of him. An image of the forged memo appeared. My wife, Usha, who is a far better lawyer than Ms. Crockett will ever be, noticed a few things. She noticed that the form number on the bottom of the page was from a series that didn't exist until 2 years after the memo was supposedly written. A murmur went through the press corps. She noticed that the signature of the director was a forgery, a close but imperfect copy. But we didn't stop there. He held up a thick, bound report. This is the full forensic analysis from the United States Secret Service. It confirms the paper is fake. It confirms the ink is modern. It confirms the entire document was created on a computer to look old. He looked directly into the camera. The document Jasmine Crockett used to accuse my family of a crime is a fraud. Not a mistake. Not a misinterpretation. A deliberate, criminal forgery. He paused, letting the weight of the word criminal settle over the room. My wife and her family are owed an apology, but I know they will never get one from a person so consumed by hate. My part in this is done. I have defended my family with the truth. He stepped back. The room was in stunned silence. And then, President Donald Trump strode to the podium. He placed the forensic report on the lectern with a heavy, deliberate thud. This document, Representative Crockett, is a forgery. It's a fake. A pathetic, criminal fake, he boomed, his voice resonating with absolute power. And the United States Secret Service Forensic Division, whose report I hold in my hand, is prepared to testify to that fact under oath. I wonder, are you? He let the question hang, a direct, brutal challenge. You have spent weeks attacking a good family. You have lied. You have engaged in racist taunts. And now, you have escalated to committing an actual crime. Presenting a forged federal document in an attempt to frame the family of the Vice President of the United States. This is no longer a political matter, Trump declared, his eyes blazing. This is a matter for law enforcement. Therefore, I have just instructed the White House counsel to hand over this full forensic report, along with all of Representative Crockett's public statements, to the Department of Justice for an immediate criminal investigation into forgery, fraud, and defamation. Gasps erupted around the room. This was an earthquake. Trump leaned into the microphone, his voice dropping to a menacing conclusion. You wanted an investigation, Representative. Now you have one. But it won't be into the Vance family. It will be into you. The game is over. The lies are done. Now, you will face the consequences of your crimes, not in the court of public opinion, but in a court of law. He turned and walked off the stage, leaving a shell-shocked press corps and a nation in disbelief. Within the hour, the news was everywhere. Jasmine Crockett was not just a disgraced politician. She was now the subject of a federal criminal investigation. The video of her proudly holding up the fake document was played on a loop, juxtaposed with the president's thunderous condemnation. She had tried to light one last fire and had ended up burning her entire world to the ground. She had built a prison of lies, and now the president had just slammed the door and thrown away the key. By revealing not just a lie, but a provable crime, President Trump and the Vances didn't just win the argument. They changed the entire game. What do you think was the most critical piece of evidence, though, that sealed Crockett's fate? Share your thoughts below, and for more stories of ultimate justice, be sure to subscribe.